You know, for some of our viewers who may not be as familiar with you, if you can, talk to us a little bit about your background and what first led you into politics.
Oh, wow. I think, you know, first, for our viewers who may not be aware of who I am, but few and far between, because I've been on TV so much over the past decade, so to speak. But I've been the Allegheny County Councilman at large for almost 10 years, serving from 2016 until mid-January here. And then I also been the chair of the Republican Committee of Allegheny County from 2019 until I've announced that I'm stepping down, but it'll be effective February 22nd. So I've been involved in politics here really for the last, over 10 years, and been, front and center trying to let folks know that the Republican Party in Allegheny County is alive and well, and on council trying to add a voice of common sense to many of the things that we were debating on Grant Street and show that we're able to govern as well, working with the previous administration and this one to an extent, as we move forward. And we just completed the budget, here last year.
Mm-hmm. What is it about your personality that drew you to politics?
I wouldn't say it's my personality. It's just that, Cal, you care about where you live, okay? We start to pay attention to the things that are happening or not happening. And to me, my view of government is it really should be focused on three things: public safety, public works, and parks. Those are the three key pillars. Everything else, is an afterthought or a nice to have, okay? And I got tired of just yelling at the television for elected officials to try to do something, and they talk about, if you want your elected officials to do something, you should weigh in, you should contact them, you should write them letters, call their office. Well, here it just seemed a lot easier for me if I just ran for the seat than trying to tell someone else what to do. So that's what I did. And I will tell you, it's one of the most rewarding things that someone can do. When you're able to make a difference in somebody's life, there is no better feeling in the world.
So obviously, you've had this long career on Allegheny County Council. Can you name one really memorable moment that you've had?
Well, I've had a lot, but I would just tell you one of the things I'm proudest of is it really just completed a 2-year project of getting body-worn cameras to officers in Allegheny County whose departments didn't have the ability to take and pay for them. This was a project that took over 2 years, and we spent over $2 million and acquired almost 1,000 cameras to give officers throughout Allegheny County in these smaller municipal departments, body-worn cameras. And I think that's a great thing. I mean, I did it for a number of reasons, right? But the primary one is you wanted to restore faith, in the law enforcement community with the community. You wanted to show them that officers are actually behaving professionally, they're doing their job, and there's a lot of side benefits to it. One, if you're in an interaction with an officer and he tells you that you're on video, sometimes that can help diffuse the situation, prevent tempers from rising or things from occurring. It helps the district attorney because now you have an evidentiary trail or path because you have things on record. It helps the police chief train their officers because they can review that footage, they can coach and counsel, when they're not with them and say, oh, here's how I would have handled that stop. Here's what you might want to do differently and things of that nature. So to me, it was a win-win all around. And I got tired of seeing on the national news civil disturbances that would occur across the country because a citizen captured a small snippet of video on a cell phone of an interaction. And then it goes wild, it goes viral. We have civil disturbances, and really it doesn't really accurately capture what happened or what occurred or why. So, that was one of the things that I'm proudest of that completed. Like I said, we distributed, along with a team, Deputy Superintendent Vic Joseph of the Allegheny County Police, Melissa Jaworski from the budget office in the county, and we did this all. It started under Willie McCain, former county manager, and Rich Fitzgerald, the former county executive. I went to him with an ask. I wanted $1 million initially to do this, and he stepped up and gave it to me. He thought it was a great project. So very proud of that. But there's so many things that we've done over the years. I mean, working with the administration, we were able to take and keep taxes in check and keep finances under control. We had 5 credit upgrades. That allowed us to refinance the county's debt without extending the term and save the taxpayers $26.5 million. Look at what we've done at the airport. You have a $1.5 billion new terminal. Will be world-class. There'll be nothing like it anywhere in the world without a dime of taxpayer money, right? So there's a lot of great things that we've done here, many of which I'm proud of, but like I said, there's no better feeling in the world than when you're able to help somebody that's actually in dire need, and make a difference in their life. And that's what, public service is all about.
Better than yelling at the TV like you were doing before.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes.
So you bring up, county finances and the budget. You were an outspoken critic of County Executive Sarah Innamorato and her plan to raise the budget, which ultimately, to raise taxes, I should say, which ultimately did end up passing. What are your concerns about the budget that passed? And for people who aren't familiar, if you can kind of explain this budget to them.
Sure. Look, I guess I would say everyone knew. I mean, it had been 12 years since taxes had been raised previously. So you know that you're going to have to raise taxes. But when the administration came right out of the gate asking for a 46.5% tax increase, that was just a bridge too far. So we started looking internally at this thing and examining the budget and saying, where could we look at, yes, we're going to have to raise taxes, but how can we minimize the pain of that increase on the taxpayers? Because all the folks out there, I mean, let's face it, inflation has hammered them. Prices are up 21% over the past 4 years. The economy isn't the best, right now, and folks are struggling. So you wanted to try to take, and yes, we have to pay for government, but we don't want to take and chase people out of Allegheny County. So we started working on this and looking internally, and we saw that there were opportunities to save. There were a number of us that got together and said, hey, we don't have to raise it 2.2 mils. We might be able to do it at 1.2 or 1.3. The administration turned around. They chose to go to folks in human services and tell all the providers, of which there were over 600, that if they didn't get this huge tax increase, that their programs were going to be slashed and their employees were going to be laid off. So that caused the Gold Room down at County Council to be full on successive meeting dates with people wanting the taxes to be raised. And at the end of the day, DHS ended up getting all of the money that they had asked for, $107 million more than they spent last year. And yet still, you saw a Post-Gazette report. They did a series over a 3-week period talking about DHS, and then they came out and talked about how they're going to be cutting services or cutting reimbursements for some of the folks that are severely mentally ill, which I find questionable. So look, I think government has a cost, but like I said, it's the 3 Ps, the pillars: public safety, public works, and parks. Those are the main things. We don't have enough resources to be another safety net, to try to take the place of the federal government.
Still ahead on For the Record.
So it's really trying to put a lot of that together while he's doing the hard work and the heavy lifting down there in Washington.
Sam DeMarco talks about working with Senator Dave McCormick, plus what he says to expect from the new Trump administration.
The golden age of America begins right now.
It was the historic political moment the entire world was watching this past week, the second inauguration of President Donald Trump. As we return for more For the Record now, I continue my conversation with Sam DeMarco, the outgoing chair of the Republican Committee of Allegheny County and outgoing county councilman. We spoke the day after the inauguration, talking a bit about the political landscape as he begins his work with U.S. Senator Dave McCormick.
Is it hard for you to walk away at this point?
You know what? It was bittersweet. Yes, I know that, and this is not trying to be complimentary, but I know that I'm going to leave a void because I was one of the prominent voices or the most vocal, folks here in the county on things. But this opportunity to be able to work, for Senator McCormick is just something that I couldn't pass up. I believe that he has the ability, the opportunity to be a transformative senator here for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, being from here in Allegheny County, where he currently lives, and Western Pennsylvania. I believe that we're going to see him do great things for us, and to be able to play just even a small role in helping is something that was very exciting and interesting to me, and again, an opportunity I couldn't pass up.
Yeah, what will your role be?
Well, my role as the regional director is first to staff the office and make sure we deliver superior and exceptional constituent service to our constituents, okay? And then it's also to be around there to be as an ambassador, so to speak, for the senator, talking to businesses, talking to economic development groups, talking to our elected officials, trying to understand what their priorities, what their goals and their objectives are. How can we in the federal government either assist, help, try to procure funding, things of that nature. So it's really trying to put a lot of that together while he's doing the hard work and the heavy lifting down there in Washington.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you were witness to the election. We had Senator McCormick unseat Bob Casey and Donald Trump be elected president just this week. He was inaugurated. As you stand back and watch all of this unfold as a Republican, what are your thoughts about this state of affairs right now?
Well, I'm very excited. I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to accomplish that objective. And I think leading up to the election, Kelly, a lot of folks saw this was an election about change. 70% of the country, when they were surveyed, felt the country was moving in the wrong direction. You had one party, talking about what they wanted to do, which were the Republicans. You had another party trying to tell you that what you were seeing, wasn't in fact true, okay? But you were experiencing it. Every time you went to the grocery store, every time you went to the gas station, every time you were out at night, downtown or something of that nature, may have been concerned about safety. All of those feelings, I think, all came together and resulted in the election results we saw in November. And I think, again, very excited. Not only did we win the White House, not only did we capture a U.S. Senate seat, and who amongst any of the folks out there besides the true believers, us folks who worked, would have thought that Senator McCormick was going to be able to defeat Bob Casey, such an established name, the Casey dynasty, in Pennsylvania. And then together we won 3 statewide row offices. We captured the Attorney General's office for the first time in, 16 years, I think it's been. We re-elected the state treasurer, re-elected the state auditor general. We maintained the majority in the state Senate. And the House is just basically is where it was, prior to going into the election. So we had a good night. But now, along with that, comes the responsibility to deliver on the promises that you made during the campaign. What are we going to do to make people's lives better? What are we going to do to help cut inflation? What are we going to do to help lower their energy prices? What are we going to do to make things safer? What are we going to do to help attract businesses and investment to the region so that folks can, A, get jobs, and B, their pay, increase their basic pay. So there's a lot of work out there for us. But I believe that we're up to it. I'm looking forward to it and very excited about what the future holds.
And I know you're working with McCormick and not Trump, but as far as Trump's policies, how do you see any of these impacting Allegheny County in particular?
Well, I think, a couple of them. I mean, one, both the president and Senator McCormick, are very excited about taking and opening up energy. They believe in both believe in energy dominance, not just independence. So like the executive order, that the president signed yesterday talking about declaring a national energy emergency, I think that's going to play well here, okay? I think we sit on all this wonderful Marcellus shale, the Utica underneath it. This has the ability to deliver low-cost energy. When you talk about manufacturing is an energy-intensive business. If we can provide low-cost energy, we can then compete globally with manufacturers elsewhere. Right? So as we talk about exploring for energy, we talk about harvesting it, we talk about onshoring manufacturing, which we saw how our supply chains were impacted, during the COVID pandemic. These are all things that just the energy alone can make a significant difference, okay, and impact. And then you look at what they're doing from a deregulation standpoint. President Trump was phenomenal in his first term about saying for every new regulation that we're going to issue, we need to get rid of 2. Okay, when you talk about things, and I'll use the U.S. Steel, for example. Back when U.S. Steel was looking at building the $1.5 billion cogeneration facility and things here prior to the pandemic, the governor of Arkansas laughed and said, we can have this mill up, built and running before you can get permits issued in Pennsylvania. And he was right, okay? These are the things that we need to take and do. We need to take and remove the constraints that are holding back business, that are holding back, infrastructure improvement, that are holding back growth, to allow us to prosper. There's no reason that we, the United States of America, with the people that we have, with the work ethic that we have, cannot, be the most prosperous nation on the face of the earth. I mean, we are, but even we can go so much further beyond that if we just get out of our own way. And I think President Trump, and I think Senator McCormick will help us do that.
Still ahead.
A lot of folks don't agree or didn't agree with some of the things that I did or the reasons why I did them, but I always had the best interests of the committee and Republicans at heart.
More reflections from Sam DeMarco and his take on a couple of big upcoming political races here in our region. Welcome back to For the Record. What's in store for the future of Pittsburgh? As I sit down with outgoing Republican County Councilman Sam DeMarco, I ask him about two big political stories we will all be watching in the months ahead.
I want to talk a little bit about the future of the Republican Party here in the region. The Pittsburgh Republican Committee announced it's going to be having a primary for the office of Mayor of Pittsburgh. There's also a primary on the Democratic side between Ed Gainey and Allegheny County Controller Corey O'Connor. What are you expecting from what's sure to be a major race and contentious from both sides of the aisle?
I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. Okay, the Pittsburgh Republican Party, the city committee, they have a uphill climb because registration advantage for Democrats is 5-1, Democrat to Republican in the city. So we have an uphill climb, but it's good that we now have a committee that is out there, that is getting out, that is recruiting candidates, that is making their voice heard and showing a presence. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the Democrat primary between Corey O'Connor and Ed Gainey. And, polls have shown that Corey O'Connor can beat Ed Gainey, but he's going to have to execute. I mean, he just had, there were some big stories in the news recently here. You had almost a week that went by where you were talking about staffing of the police or the lack of staffing here in the police on the television, right? But where was Corey out there talking about what he was going to do to address that? You had the first snowfall where Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh was like an ice rink. There were no public works trucks to be found. Where was Corey out talking about that? You just had this one that we're dealing with. You look and there are other reporters that are out there talking about, here's Brookline, here's, Squirrel Hill, haven't been touched, right? These are opportunities for somebody that's running to be able to get what they call earned media. It doesn't cost them a dime, doesn't have to run a commercial, but talk about what you're going to do. And like I said, the three pillars are public safety, public works, and parks. And I think, if you run on competency, you run on the fact and say that, hey, I will be able to make sure that all 200 water fountains in our parks are turned on in the summer. All these things that we take for granted that aren't being delivered, that all the pools are open for the kids so that they have a place to go, during summer break for recreation. I mean, these are, so, I'm excited about seeing where this mayor's race goes, but I'm not impressed at the moment, with seeing, the candidates, the one that's the incumbent and the other who's the candidate that are running it, talking about how they're going to address these things, that people are concerned about.
We should talk about your position also. We understand Attorney Jason Ritchie has announced he's seeking to fill your seat. Also, Attorney Doug Austin challenging him. Are you endorsing either as your successor?
Look, I don't want to be in the position of endorsing someone, but I would say this. I mean, Doug Austin ran against me, 2.5 years ago, okay? And at the conclusion of that election, I offered him an opportunity to come up and speak to everybody at the committee. He declined. He left, and I've not seen nor heard from him in 2.5 years. So no involvement with the committee, no contributions, no donations, no holding fundraisers or doing anything for the candidates. So he's not been around. And Jason Ritchie, on the other hand, had run for governor back into 2022 cycle. Not only had, donated, significant funds to RCAC to keep the committee, keep the doors open, pay for our employee, keep the lights on, right? But has stayed involved and engaged this entire time. So, when the members of the committee go out and make their selection, I mean, you have to look at this and say, okay, who do we feel comfortable can build on what Sam DeMarco did, okay? A lot of folks don't agree or didn't agree with some of the things that I did or the reasons why I did them, but I always had the best interests of the committee and Republicans at heart. There's a logic, there's a reason behind every single decision that I made. And you have factions out there. You have a far left, you have far right, right? And these folks, to them, everything's about a purity test. And for the voters, the members of the committee that are going to be making this choice need to understand that politics is a game of addition, not subtraction. As Ronald Reagan said, someone that's with me 80% of the time, is a friend and an ally, not a 20% traitor. Okay, and the more you try to demand someone agree with you on everything, the more you thin the number of folks that are out there, right? So if we want to win elections, we need to be a Big Ten party. Everybody needs to be welcome. That's what I tried to do, when I ran the committee, and hopefully that's what they'll continue to do. We doubled the size of the committee from what it was in 2022 in regards to the number of folks that ran and were elected to the number of committee members we have today. We need to continue that growth, and hopefully the next chair will be able to do that.
Coming up on For the Record, Sam DeMarco's message to Allegheny County as he prepares for his next chapter. Welcome back to For the Record. Before we go, I want to show you one more thing from my sit-down interview with Sam DeMarco, who is leaving Allegheny County Council and his post as leader of the county's Republican committee to work with newly elected U.S. Senator Dave McCormick. Take a look.
Do you have a message to the people of Allegheny County who are watching this right now?
I think my message would be that the folks, keep your chin up and stay optimistic, okay? Yeah, sometimes times are tough, but the future lays in their hand. They have the opportunity to vote for folks who are leaders who they believe can take this county in the right direction. And we all know what we need. Again, it's about jobs. How do we bring business and investment to the region? We want our grandchildren. Joe Rocky, when he ran for county executive, was fond of saying that, hey, we want to go to Tampa for vacation, not to visit our grandkids, okay? And so we want to be able to have jobs here. And you talk about the renaissance that they're trying to do downtown, where they want to convert so many of these old office buildings to residentials. Well, people will move someplace to be close to where they work, okay? If we can't get business to come back downtown and get businesses to come here, they're not going to fill those places down there, right? So it's really got to be an all of the above strategy here, as we look to reinvigorate, the Golden Triangle, and the city of Pittsburgh is the county seat in the center of Allegheny County. So, again, be optimistic, but, folks, don't vote along party lines. Look at the candidates, look at what they're saying they're going to do, and, vet them to see if you believe they can actually accomplish it. But I think we've gotten so tribal, Kelly. Folks vote by the D or the R or the I by someone's name. It's almost like Steelers and Browns fans. They're putting a jersey on, right? And I think that's hurt us because it's prevented us from recognizing who the best leaders may be, irrespective of who their party affiliation is.
That is all the time we have this week for the Record. We'll see you back here next Sunday morning at 11:30. Have a great week.